Today we're going to rebuild the Marchesini 43mm inverted forks off the Ducati Monster. You can see these have been leaking for a long time. They're just totally nasty. I don't think there's any oil left in it at all. There's absolutely no damping. It's just like a pogo stick. There's no resistance at all. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to get these apart. First one we've already covered. To get this cap loose, I don't have a jig to hold this in a vise to get this cap loose, so I loosen this cap while it's in the bike, while the bottom triple tree is holding it. It's important to release the top triple tree so you're not clamping down on this tube and you can actually loosen the top cap. So leave it in the bike on the bottom triple tree, loosen the top triple tree, get this cap loose, then we can just pop it off when we're ready. Another mistake that a lot of guys make, or actually it's not a mistake, it's actually the procedure, is they'll take this cap off, they'll drain the oil out, and that's one way to do it. I mean, if you're just changing oil, you can pop the cap off, drain the oil out, put new oil in it without changing any fork seals. But we're going to pull this whole assembly apart. So I leave this completely together, and the very first thing I do is take this bottom bolt out. There's a bolt in here that holds the internals together, and it's absolutely critical that that comes out. And if you take the top cap off, drain the oil, and work on the top portion of it first, and then you can't get this bolt out, now you're stuck. You can't go backwards. At least if you get this bolt out first, now you can proceed, take the cap off, get the oil out, and proceed normally. So be very careful with these. A lot of these guys, when they rebuild these, they put Loctite on them, and these things are difficult to get out. Also, the internals are going to want to spin while you're trying to get that bolt out. And that's another reason why I leave them together is this spring in here, the whole cartridge assembly, and this tension that you feel here. This is going to help put resistance against the internals so that they don't spin when you pull this bolt out. I go at it with my impact gun and a really good quality Allen wrench, a nice sharp tip on it. Don't use a ball end, and this should come right apart. So I'm going to move the camera so that you can see what I do here. All right, back on the floor again. Got these inverted forks upside down. I'm going to go out this with an 8mm extended Allen wrench, my impact gun. Basically, I'm going to put some downward force on it and give it a whack. Perfect. It's out. Okay. You should always have a vessel handy because you dump this upside down. There's going to be some oil come out of here. There's probably no oil left in these. We'll see. Let me move you back up top here. Not a drop of oil. That's pretty funny. Here's that bolt that came out with the crush washer on it. Actually, what's interesting about these Italian forks, they use these a lot on Guzzi's and Ducatis. But this crush washer, see if you can see that, it's not just a crush washer. There's actually an internal O-ring to there. Very important to replace this. And I always use, well, these are actually, I usually use new bolts, but this is perfect. Nobody's been in here before. The bolt's really good shape. So next up, since we have no oil in it, normally there'd be some drainage time. But we don't have any concerns there. Not a drop of oil come out of that. So, oh, I'll take that back. There we go. She's dripping. Maybe that's water. Looks like water. Doesn't smell like water. So there was some oil left. Oh, there we go. Okay. Next up is I got to pull that cap off, and then the internals will come out. So let me reposition here. Using my old beach towel, it's very important that you maintain a level of cleanliness here. These are pretty sensitive to dirt and debris when they get inside. So using my old beach towel, I'll pull this cap off. Now this is a cartridge style fork, so there should be no tension on this cap because the cartridge is what's under tension. So this cap should just come off. Yep. Here's the whole cartridge assembly. And inside here you've got your piston and your flow control, and your fork seals are actually in this top tube here. So to get the seal out, we have to pull the dust boot off. There should be a C-clip in there holding the seal. So we're going to pull this cap off with a little tiny screwdriver. We'll be right back. You can use a screwdriver, or you have to try a little piece of plastic scraper first to see if I can get this thing so I don't scratch the... Yep, here we go. What's up? And now, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. There's a C-clip in there. Let's pry that sucker out. There we go. One side. Two. There she is. Now there's nothing holding that seal in. We should be able to just pop this apart. And there she is. I just made a mess on the floor and I stepped on it. Here's our bushings, bottom bushing, top bushing, washer, seal, and dust boot. So this guy's got a little bit of wear on him. It's not terrible. This guy looks okay. I'm going to clean this up and inspect him. And I'm also going to soak this leg in some parts cleaner to get all this gunk off of it. And then we'll show you how these go back together. In the last segment, we saw that I removed the bottom bolt on the fork leg and pulled this entire cartridge assembly with the top cap in place and with the spring loaded. That's one way to do this. In order to change the fork seals, you don't have to do it that way. That's just one way. So I'm going to show you the other method on the other fork leg, where we leave that bolt in place and we take the cap off, we unload the spring, take the cap off, pull the spring out and the preload spacer out, and leave the cartridge in the forks. So here's the other fork leg. We're just going to remove the cap. The internals are still bolted on the bottom. So I've already loosened this up. Remember, I had this clamped in the bike. So I'm just going to loosen the tube by holding the cap. This is not on tension because the cartridge is preloaded, not this. And this slides back down. Now, in order to get this cap off, we have to push this spring down, capture it with a 13mm box wrench, and then loosen the top nut with a 17mm. So let me bring you down here and show you that. The Ducati factory shop manual says that you can actually just push the spring down by hand and get your wrench in there. That's pretty stiff. There's quite a bit of preload on this spring, and I can't really do that. And I have a Racetech special spring compressor that'll do that for us. So let me show you how that gets set up. Here's the Racetech spring compressor. It basically has a pin here that just grabs the bottom of the fork leg. And then there's a little clamp device that grabs the spring. And what we do is turn this down to compress the spring. Which exposes our 13mm nut. And then we back this guy off. So once again, we've got our 13 here and our 19 up top, and just loosen this cap. Like that. Okay, cap's off. And we can undo our spring compressor. Spring comes out, cartridge actually stays in place. I'm going to get rid of the spring compressor here. And we got our preload tube, spacer. Notice there's a recess on the spacer, goes down towards the cartridge. Now our cartridge stays in there. So the advantage of doing it this way is you don't have to fool with that bolt on the bottom. And when you go to refill, this is how you check your oil level height with the damper in place. So you can fill this up with oil, get your spec correct, prime the damper, and then reassemble. However, if you want to inspect the damper, replace the damper, or replace any of the parts in there, you have to remove that bottom bolt and get the damper assembly out, which is what I did in the first segment. So we'll reassemble both, and I'll show you how that works. So with the fork assembly, the damper rod's still attached to the bottom. I did not remove this bolt. The spring is out, the preload tube is out, the washer is out. Now we want to change the fork seals. So we're going to have to separate this and get these fork seals out. So this is essentially the same method. You pry this back, pull out the clip, now there's nothing, remember the rod, damper rod is still in here, but I can still remove the forked leg from the tube, or vice versa, depending on what the perspective is. We got our bushings. Now in this case, to get these seals off, this bushing has to come off. It's a split ring. You just peel it back. Bushing comes off. Bushing comes off. Washer. Fork seal. C-clip. And dust boot. You have to reassemble the opposite way. Notice the damper rod is still in here. I did not remove that bottom bolt, so this is just another method to do this. We are ready for reassembly. Look at how clean these came out. So I dipped these in my parts washer, and lo and behold, when I pulled them out, silver paint came off. So Ducati must paint these fork legs silver, even though they're already silver because they're bare aluminum. And I guess they do that for protection. So I didn't have any silver paint, and I didn't want to just use regular paint, so I cleaned them all up, and I shot them with my favorite 2K, Max 2K Clear Glamour clear coat, and they cleaned up real nice. When assembling the new fork seals, there's very sharp edges on this tube. You got a recess for the bushing, you got these holes, and you got another set of holes down here for flow control, that if you slide the fork seal over those, you could cut the new fork seal. So something that I found that works to protect that is a condom. Oh, it broke! It broke! It broke! My condom broke. Let's try a different method. New condom. I don't have a lot of practice at this. There we go. Now I can cut the base off. And now we have a nice slippery surface to slide those seals on. Okay, first, dust boot. C-clip. Fork seal. Markings and numbers up, away from the containment vessel, which is down in this case, because it's an inverted fork. Plenty of lube, inside and out of the fork seal. Once again, part numbers away from the containment vessel. Okay, peel the condom back. Away. And now our bushings. First up, It's the washer. Flat side facing the bushing, curved side facing the seal. Again, plenty of lubrication on the bushings. Top bushing slides right over. Bottom bushing is tethered in that groove. Like so. Now we're ready to reassemble the leg. Pre-assembled fork leg with all of our bushings and our seals, dust boot, and the fork tube. On an inverted fork, I can't tell which is the leg and which is the tube. Normally the leg is the bottom and the tube is the top. In this case it's reversed. So is this the leg and is this the tube? Well, this is still the tube and this is the leg, but it's up top. I don't get it. So anyway, this goes together like so. And we put our, get that washer out of there. There we go. Just the bushing in this case. Make sure it's nice and centered. And the washer. And we use our split 43mm fork seal driver to lightly encourage that bushing to settle. There she goes. Now the seal. I'm using Racetech seals here. This is the first time I'm using Racetech seals. I usually use OEM seals, but they're harder to get and more expensive. So I figured I'd give this a try. There we go. Satisfying thump. Take our seal driver off. C-clip. Satisfying click. And the dust boot. And we're done. Alright, I've got less than half a quart. The other one, half a liter. The other half a liter went in the other fork leg. So I'm going to dump this whole thing in here. Again, it's 10 weight. Opted for Bell Ray, which happens to be green. And I'm going to prime. So remember the other fork leg, we had rebound dampening. In this case, I have no rebound dampening, I have compression dampening. So one fork is compression, one fork is rebound. That's pretty common on a lot of motorcycles. Yep. Good. I don't hear any more air. I know I'm going to have to add more oil because we're just not at that level. Let me just double check that, make sure that's true. So same level. 104 millimeters. Yeah, not enough oil. I'm not sucking anything. So let me grab another quart. Be right back. All right, a new fresh quart here. A little more in. Try that level. Yep, there we go. Didn't take much. And there we go. Great. Excellent. Okay. All right, back on the floor for reassembly. All right. Spacer. Recess side down with the cartridge. Over piston, preload spacer, some height here, this oil's going to come up, progressive rate down, try and hold on to this, no, it's not going to work, that's just going to fall, I'm going to have to fish it out, there we go. Fish out our damper rod. Cap on. Go. Squeeze this down just a little bit more. There we go. Now I can get my wrench in there. Okay. Tighten this jam nut. Like so. Yep. Oh, my hands are all slippery. There we go. And now we and again, I just get it to the point where it's over the O-ring, it's a seal, and then we'll tighten her up when we're in the bike. We have it in the triple tree. And that's that, another fork done. Let's see. Yep. Excellent. Time to jump in the pool. Thanks for watching another project video. Hopefully you find these tips and tricks helpful. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Any comment helps. Do you want to see more of something? Do you want to see less of something? Are these too long? Do I need to make them shorter? More content, less content? And thanks again for watching, and please like and subscribe.